Virus spreads across the West, new signs of hope in Asia, and in particular South Korea, where there's been a dramatic turnaround.
One country that appears to have succeeded with the coronavirus, where others have failed, is South Korea.
My name is Andrés Brown, and I'm the correspondent for EFE, the Spanish news agency, and I'm the correspondent here in Korea for this company that basically reports in Spain and in all Spanish-speaking countries, which is many of them, so mostly Latin America. It's the fourth biggest news agency in the world. I've been living in Korea for three years already, but I've spent more than 10 already in the Northeastern Asian region. We can name a few, but I mean, in regards to the kind of stories that I've written or that many other foreign correspondents have written, I think the basic pillars of the Korean response, as I just mentioned, transparency would be one, massive testing, of course, and that required a previous preparation, and comprehensive tracking infected people, and of course a medical treatment of all the cases, and proper isolation quarantine procedures. I think actually all of them probably could be. As I said, transparency, testing, tracking, and treating. Of course, the only problem here is many countries in the world do not have the resources to deploy these systems. But yeah, I guess if I had to pick one that every country could use, it would be probably a good citizen response to the measures implemented by the government. And I think so far, of course there's many exceptions, but so far I think Korean citizens have responded very well. Well, very positively. I do have to say there's been some controversy in the Western media about people trying to explain why Koreans or other Asian people respond in a very, let's say, group kind of way, and how much Confucius could have to do with this. I just think in this case, one thing I want to stress is that Korea, if you want to call it luck, of course it's not luck, but Korea suffered MERS in 2015, and I think that was crucial because that helped the government set up some legislation that has helped enormously in this crisis, and also it helped people take this very seriously very early because they had that memory very fresh. Almost 40 people died in Korea because of MERS, and I think that was fundamental too. Well, my take on this is that in a normal situation, of course, the government shouldn't be disclosing this kind of information or have access at least to it if, you know, a crime hasn't been committed, for example. But of course, in this situation, in Korea's case, I am very at ease with it because the government has already stressed that this has been done on a legal base. There is a law that regulates this on the time of infectious diseases, infectious epidemics, and I think that mostly the result we're seeing is absolutely fabulous. So in my case right now, I have no concerns at all in Korea of the use of this information, because also the government has stressed that when the situation gets better, they will destroy all these records and they will shut down this system. Well, I think it's so far probably the best response that we've seen under a democratic system. probably Taiwan and Korea have so far the best results.
So what is the current situation in the European region, especially the Spanish-speaking countries?
Well, in Europe the situation is still bad, and in particular in Spain and Italy, especially bad, given the number of people that have died because of coronavirus. Of course, very important, as the more testing kits available in the hands of a lot of countries is going to be very helpful. I mean, the Korean government has already stated it. This is not only about fixing the problem in Korea. It's a global issue. So, of course, testing is one of the things that the World Health Organization has stressed that should be done massively.
So what do you think is the direction that the global community is
Well, as you pointed out, international cooperation would be a good start, because we're not really seeing it on many levels, unfortunately. And of course, when the US and China are not on the best of diplomatic relations right now, it does make things difficult. In that respect, of course, Korea has good diplomatic relations with almost every country in the world, and I think has a lot to show of what its handling of the virus has been. So of course, listen and learn from each other. That would be a good start. Just like Korea learned a lot about its negative MERS experience, I think that's one of the keys here. Korea is doing things very well now because it did learn very well the lesson, and it acted fast to prepare itself for a potential situation of another epidemic coming. Yeah, of course, I'd like to encourage them to keep on fighting as they've been, keeping social distancing as the government has recommended. And of course, this is on the best of my interest because I am a resident in Korea, and so I consider myself part of that. I'm on the receiving side too. And yeah, I'd like to congratulate them for how much they put up with so far, and also highlight the hard work of all institutions in Korea, government, and so many officials that have probably lost sleep these past few weeks, working very hard, putting numbers together, and of course doctors, nurses, everybody involved in hospitals, which is a lot of people. It's not only, as we're seeing, doctors and nurses, it's also ambulance drivers, it's also the cleaning staff, it's also the staff that cooks the food that is served in hospitals. And yeah, I think that's about it. 코로나는 코리아를 이길 수 없다.